Okay, welcome everyone. As we welcome in Dr. Udell and Eddie Chazan, Dr. Block, Stephen Holtzman, Shimon Klein, Michal, Bruce Eisenberg, Dr. Guy, Avi Ament, Shelley Zeitlin, Ilya Schutman, Aaron Swade, Naftali, Irving Fishbaum, Barish Gesserman, Shimon, Deer, Yitzi Muller, Abe Arbach, and here in the shul we have Saba, Rich Lenner, Reb Kramer, and Reb Blumenfeld. It's really, really nice to have you here, Reb Shleima, Gedalia, and we welcome David Helfkat on Kol Haloshin. As we are starting the new Mishnah, as it's Hashem, on Daf Chav Gimel Amid Beis, on the bottom, new Mishnah, and we're dedicated by A.B. Spry and family for the safety of our Chayalim and all of Klal Yisrael, and for Isuzev ben Yuta, by Shimon Klein, Lila Nishmas Asher Anshem ben Yehuda, Gittel Bas Shimon Pinchas, Irving Fishbaum for his Chus Issa ben Rezel, and tonight's share is being specially dedicated by Dr. Block, Le'ilui Nishmas Pinchas Aaron ben Yisrael, his Shver. The Shama should have an aliyah. He should be a melitz yosher for his family, for all of us in Klal Yisrael. He should have a lichtige Gan Eden. We also wish a mazel tov to my son Yaakov, who finally is making a bris be'ezus Hashem tomorrow morning on his son Yeled ben Chava. We are, as I said, we're holding by the new Mishnah. We've been talking always about tam and mu'id, and now we're going to learn the details. What makes a mu'id? Is it 3 times in a row, or does it have to be 3 separate days in a row? So the Mishnah says, Ezel tam ve'ezel mu'id. What constitutes a tam and what constitutes a mu'id? Mu'id, kol she'idu by shloisha yomim, where they testified 3 days and consecutive days that the shar gored. The tam, and the tam is mishiyalza by shloisha yomim. And a tam, in other words, it reverts back to a tam and loses the status, is if it has 3 opportunities and it does not gore. Div Reb Yehuda. Reb Meir, I'm a mu'ad she'idu by shloisha pa'amim. It becomes a mu'ad even if it's 3 times in one day. The tam, and it becomes a tam, kol sheyehu atinoikis memash mishimbai. If children play and poke it between the horns, ve'einu nogeach, and it doesn't gore, that shows that it reverts back to a tam. So the Gemara tells us now, what's the reason of Rabbi Yehuda that he says that it's 3 days? My time at Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Abaya, because it says mitmol shilshaim. So tmol without the mem, tmol is chad. Mitmol, the extra man, makes trey 2 times. Shilshaim is tlasa, is the 3rd time. V'lo yishmerena ba'alav, it's old. V'lo yishmerena ba'alav, and if the owner doesn't watch it, asan l'negicha revius. So according to Abaya, it's not a nezik shalom until the 4th time. It takes 3 times to make it a mu'id, and the 4th time it's a nezik shalom. Rava says tmal mitmal. He doesn't dash in the extra mem. Tmal mitmal chad. Shilsham trey. That's the 2nd time. V'lo yishmerena, and he doesn't guard it after 2 times, then chayiv. He's chayiv. In other words, it becomes a mu'id after 2 times. Now, v'rameir my time. What's the reason for Rameir that he says that even if it's 3 times in one day? So the Gemara says, the Tanya Amar Rameir, as we turn to the top of Chav Dalet Amar Aleph, and we welcome in Sandy Grunfeld and Richard Rosenzweig, who can't find his way to the computer yet. We welcome him on Facebook anyway. Thank you very much, Gedalia. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol niyeh b'dvaro.
When you talk over here, the difference between an oxen and a bull. An ox is trained.
We'll talk about a matador. We'll talk about a matador. We'll talk about a bull in a bull ring. That's a different story. But here we're talking about any animal, an ox or a bull, if it got 3 times or 2 times, according to Rava, it's a muad. Now, but getting back to Rameir says it's not 3 days, but even 3 times in 1 day. Why? Because he says, Richak negichos of chayiv, if the goring is distanced in 3 days, kirv negichos of, if they're close together, that definitely shows he's dangerous. Loi kol shechein. So Amrulei, so they say to him, Zava toichiach. A Zava, and in order to become a Zava Gedayla, and she has to count 7 clean days, she has to see 3 times on 3 different days, 3 consecutive days. It's not enough to see 3 times on 1 day. Amrulei Zava toichiach, sherichika riyoseh tameya. Only if she sees blood on 3 separate days is she tamei. Kirva riyoseh, if she sees them on the same day, tahira. She's not going to be a Zava Gedayla that has to count 7 clean days. Amalahan, so he says, Hariyu Omer, it says in the parsha of Zava, V'zois tiyeh tum'osoi b'zoivai. And this will be his tumah with his flow. And the din is taka zav has to bring a carbon if he sees 3 flows even in 1 day. And over there it says v'zois to tell us that it's only by a zav. By a zava it's only 3 separate days. Tola akasav es a zav b're'iyos, with even if it's on the same day. And from the fact that it says zois to exclude zava, that means otherwise it's normal to say that if it's on the same day, it's for sure going to be tamei. So the Gemara says, who says v'zois comes to exclude the zava from re'iyos, that if it's on the same day, she's not tamei? Maybe it comes to exclude that if a Zav sees on 3 consecutive days, he's not going to be Tamei. No, because the pasuk says Zav as Zovo l'Zachar l'Nekeva, that we juxtapose Zachar to Nekeva. Mak is Zachar l'Nekeva. Ma Nekeva is 3 consecutive days, she becomes a Zav Gedayla. Ma Nekeva b'yamim. Avzav b'yamim. So also Avzav b'yamim. So also a zav, if he sees on 3 consecutive days, is also going to be a zav gadol, and he's going to have to bring a carbon. So the Gemara says, well, do the other way. The lakish nekeva l'zachar. Let's be makish nekeva to the zachar, that just like by a zachar it's on the same day 3 times. Ma zachar b're'iyos, even 3 re'iyos on the same day is tamei. Af nekeva b're'iyos, maybe we should say the zav, if she sees 3 times on the same day, she should be tamei. So therefore the Gemara says, Hamir Rachman of Zois. There's a mir of Zois, and the Gemara says, how do you know Zois comes to exclude a nekeva 3 times in 1 day? Umara is maybe the Zois comes to exclude a Zav that sees on 3 consecutive days. So the Gemara answers, Koi b're'iyos, since it says Zois by re'iyos, 3 on 1 day, mimayit b're'iyos, it excludes something 3 on the same day. In other words, a Zav 3 on the same day. It's not likely that Koi b're'iyos, that it says Zois by 3 on 1 day, and it's Mamayit Yomim, and it comes to exclude the Zav from 3 separate days. In other words, it's more mistavra that since the pasuk is talking about 3 times on one day, it comes to exclude something of 3 times in one day, namely blizava. But only that is excluded. Elsewhere, 3 times in one day is a kal v'chaimer. If 3 separate days develops a mu'id, then 3 times on one day, when it's closer, surely develops. And there's the famous Maram Rattenberg over here, which the Art Scroll also brings down over here, is that we know that in order to not have to say over Mashiv Ruach Moirid Agoshem, it has to be 30 days that you said Mashiv Ruach Moirid Agoshem. Now, 30 days is 3 tefillas, so that's 90 times. So the Maram Rattenberg says we learn out from here that if it's separate in the course of 30 days, 90 times, that develops a pattern. Then right after you start saying Mashiv Ruach Moirid Agoshem, you should say Mashiv Ruach Moirid Agoshem 90 times, and that will develop an assumption that you're not going to forget it, even though you said it kiriv, even though you said it next to each other and not separated during 30 days. Because im richak negichaisav is chayiv, then kiriv negichaisav surely makes that. And that's a famous ride that we paskin like. Now, Tan Rabbanan, Ezel Mu'id, what constitutes a mu'id? Kol she'idu by shloisha yom. If you testify 3 times against it. V'tam, she'yu atinoikis memashmishin by, and a tam is if the children poke in between its horns. Ve'eino nagech, divrei Rabbi Yossi. Now, we know Rabbi Yossi is big stuff. The Gemara says elsewhere, Rabbi Yossi nimukai imai, and there's another Gemara, in the Klolim Svarim, the Yad Malachi is a klal sefer, brings down this klal from the Gemara that Rabbi Yossi halacha Rabbi Yossi mechavei rav, that halacha is like Rabbi Yossi even if he argues with a rabbin. So Rabbi Yossi is really powerful. So what did Rabbi Yossi over here say? So Rabbi Yossi says 3 days. So that's like the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, that it has to be 3 days, and the tam it becomes a tam when the children poke at it between the horns and it doesn't gore. That's like the opinion of Rameir. Reb Shimon Aimer, mu'id kol she'idu by shloisha pamim, even 3 times on the same day. V'lay amru shloisha yamim, and we only say 3 days. El l'chazar bilvat, that if there is an opportunity 3 consecutive days and it doesn't gore, it becomes a tam. Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rav Ada bar Rava. So Rav Nachman says in the name of Rav Ada bar Rava, halacha k'Reb Yehuda b'mu'id. The halacha is like Reb Yehuda by mu'id, that it takes 3 consecutive days. Shari Reb Yossi moidalai, because Reb Yossi agrees with him. Halacha k'Reb Meir b'tam, if the children poke between the horns, Shari Reb Yossi moidalai. So the Gemara says, well, why don't you say the other way around? Because Reb Shimon holds that way. Say that the halach is like Reb Meir by mu'id, that it's even 3 times in one day. Shari Reb Shimon moidalai, because Reb Shimon holds like him. V'halach Reb Yehuda b'tam, if there's 3 opportunities, one after another, it reverts back to a tam. Shari Reb Shimon moidalai, because both of them have an ally. Amalei. So this is like I explained. Anok Reb Yossi svirili. I hold that that the fact that Rabbi Yossi holds like that an opinion is bigger weight to Rabbi Yossi nimukai imai, because Rabbi Yossi has his deep reasons for whatever he says. Rabbi Yossi is an exceptional. The Gemara calls Rabbi Yossi in other times in Shas Baribi, a great man. Rabbi Yossi was like we call a heavyweight. Yeah.
Can the same shark keep going back and forth between being
yes,
calm and
yes. That's the idea. Now, Ibayalahu, and this is before the share, and by the way, we want to welcome in Mark. It's nice of you to drop by. Nachman has arrived, and Shelley has stepped in. Shelley, I sent back the article. Ibaylahu Shloisha Yomim de Kitani. The 3 days that we are talking about. Is it liyudei Torah? Is it to declare that this ox is a mu'id? No, this ox has shown that it's a gorer. Or liyudei Gavra? Or is it to warn the owner? And you have to warn the owner 3 times. So as Dr. Udell asked me right before the share, L'may nafkamina. What's the difference? So the Gemara now says the difference is as follows. What happens is 3 sets of witnesses come on Tuesday, and one set says that that Chatzkel's ox gored Sunday. One set said that Chatzkel's ox gored on Monday. And one set said that Chatzkel's ox gored on Tuesday. So if the thing is to develop that the shar is a dangerous shar, you've accomplished that. But if you need to warn the owner 3 times, here they owned him only in 1 shot. They didn't give him 3 warnings that he should get used to the idea that he has to protect the ox. If it's to develop that the ox is dangerous, miyayit. But if you have to give the owner 3 warnings, they gave it all at 1 time. So that's not considered 3 warnings. This is the first time I'm hearing about. So what's the din? As we welcome in you to Shmuel Eisenberg, a father and a son team here for our 24th Zoomer of the evening. Is that Rabbi Yisrael Fisher? I'm not sure. Rabbi Yisrael, is that you in the car? He's not talking.
Bad signal, though.
Bad signal?
Yeah. For the next one, I'll signal.
I'm sorry. Maybe, do you have, maybe you should put on Kol Lashon also. Anyway. So the Gemara says, Tajma, Ein Ashar Nase Mu'id, the shar does not become a mu'id achi ya'idu bay, until you testify b'fnei bailim or b'fnei bezdin. You have to have both the owner there, and it has to be in the presence of the court. Now this is extrapolated because it says v'huad b'va'olav. So since it says b'va'olav, you need the bailim there. And since it says v'huad hada, testifying is in court. So you need both the owner there and the court. If Bezdin was there but not the owner, or b'fnei bailim, the owner v'shaloi b'fnei Bezdin, or not Bezdin, ain't a nasa mu'ad. It's not a mu'ad, either by b'fnei Bezdin or b'fnei bailim. You need both. He'idu shnayim b'rishayna. If A and B testify about the first time, Ushnayim b'shniya, and C and D testify about the second time, Ushnayim b'shlishis, and E and F testify about the third time. So together, A, B, C, D, and E and F, Harikan Shloisha Idyas, there's 3 independent testimonies. Each one is an independent testimony that each time the shor gored, it's chai v'chasi nezek. V'heim edus achas la'azama. But for the din that the animal is the third time a mu'id and has to pay a nezek shalom according to Rava, for that, remember, if we testify that one set couldn't have seen it because they were in Acapulco, they have a din of Eidim Zaymim, and they would have to pay what they wanted to take away from the owner, who in this case was Mark Frankel. So they have a din regarding the Nezek Shalom only as one whole set, because they can't take a Nezek Shalom from Mark unless you have all 3 sets, A, B, C, D, and E and F. Nimsakat Rishayna Zaymemes, if let's say A and B were found to be Zaymim because they were in Acapulco at the time, Harikan Shtei Idyos, we only have 2 testimonies, V'hu Pater, he's exempt from paying the Nezek Shalom, V'heim Paturim, and the A and B are Pater from paying Azama on the Nezek Shalom because they didn't do it by themselves. They only did it with all 3. Nimses Kachnia Zaymeris. Harikan Edus Achas, there's left 1 set of witnesses against Mark. V'hu Pater, he's exempt from paying a Nezek Shalom. V'heim Paturim. And C and D are also Pater. Nimses Kachlisha Zaymeris. They all fell like a pack of cards, right? E and F are also they were in Dubai. So now together, this is a conspiracy to be Mechayev Mark and Nezek Shalom. Then Kulan Chayav. Then all of them have to participate in paying Mark the Nezek Shalom. We do to A, B, C, D, and E and F, like they plotted to do to Mark. Now, if we say that the developing the mu'id is to develop the animal, then shaper, because maybe A, B, C, D, and E and F showed up together. So therefore we could say it's a conspiracy that all 3 sets. But if you have to come 3 separate times in order to develop a warning to Mark, as we turn to the top of Chavdal Amid Beis, Eli Amr Liyude Gavra, because if we say that you have to warn Mark 3 times, so that means A, B came separately on Sunday, and C and D came on Monday, and E and F came on Tuesday. So A and B didn't know that there was going to be a mu'id. So you can't say that he's part of the conspiracy. Let A, B, and C and D say, did we know that that in 3 days they would come and make him a mu'id? Did we know that on the 3rd day he would come and make him a mu'id? So, Amar Ravashi, Amrita Lishmatze Kamad Rav Kahana, this was said in front of the Kahana, V'amali uli Yehude Tura Minecha, even if they came all on the same day, V'lema Hanach Basroi, let the last set, E and F, say, Anan Mina Yadina, the Kol Beidina, so we saw those people sitting here, but we didn't know they were coming about the same acts. We thought they were coming about that Gedalia hit somebody's car. You know, we didn't know what the other people were coming for. We came to testify that he gored once and Chatzi Nezek. Says the Gemara, the Kamaramze Remuze. It's talking about where they were hinting to one another. You could see they were talking to each other. You could see that they were all testifying about the same thing. Ravashi Amakishabo Ritzufim. It's talking about, as Rashi explains, even though Ritzufim normally means consecutive, but Rashi says it means they all came at the same time. They all came at the same time, and they all told the judge they're coming about the ox. Ravina says, no, here's what happened. Each one testified that they know that the owner of the ox has an ox that gored. None of them know which ox it was. And therefore, since they didn't know which ox it was, there could not be a chiyuv of a Chatzi Nezek. Because a Chatzi Nezek is only from the guf of the shar. And since neither of these witnesses testified which shar it was, it can't be that they were testifying for the Chatzi Nezek. It must be that they were just coming and testifying. You should know that this guy, this Mark Frankel, telling you, this Mark Frankel has a gorer in his corral. So there, the only thing that they could be doing is coming to warn him for a Nezek Shalom. Because it can't be that they're warning him about a Chatzi Nezek because you don't know which ox it is. And if you don't know which ox it is, you can't collect. Because you could only collect for a tam, migufay, from the guf of the ox. Ravina b'makirin balashar. They know it was Mark. Ve'ein makirin es hashar. They don't know which ox it is. Elahechi miyayilek. So then how do they make him chayiv a Nezek Shalom? The Imre, they told him, Turin akchana islach bibikarcha. You have amongst your cattle a wild one. You have to guard your entire flock, your entire pen. Now, if Yitzi incites Avi's dog against Shelley. Mao. So the Gemara says, Mishase Vade Potter. The one that incites is definitely Potter, because if you remember, we learned that's only a grumma. So the fact that Yitzi said, sick him, I would be very careful when I'm in Pomona, Shelley. But if Yitzi says to Avi's dog, sick him, then Yitzi is definitely Potter. Bal Kelev Mai. What about Avi? Mi Amrina Matzi Amalei. Avi could say, Ano Maya Vinale, what did I do? Yitzi is Zachamashugana. What did I do? O Dilma Amrina Le, we say to him, if your dog responds to such commands, you shouldn't have such a dog. O Dilma Amrina Le, Kaven di Yadas, Bekalbacha, Dimishasi Le Yumishtase, that you have a dog that listens to such commands and jumps on people. It's interesting, the Rishonim say over here, you should put down such a dog. Amar Reb Zayris says, Tajma, v'tam shiyu atinoikis mamash mishimbai. A tam is where the children poke at it, ve'einu nageach. Ha-nageach, but if it does gore, chayiv. So you see that even though the children are poking at it, the owner can't say, what did I do? The children started up. Amr Abaye. So Abaye says, your diak is not a good diak. Mikatani naga chayiv. Does it say if the children do poke at it and it gores, the owner is chayiv? No. Dilma nagach, if it gores, lo yavi tam. It doesn't revert back to a tam. But ubahi nagicha, but for that goring, maybe lo mechayiv, because it was caused by the children. Tajma, shisa by esakelev, shisa by nachish potter. If Yitzi incites a dog at someone, or incites a snake at someone, potter, my love potter mishasa v'chayev bal kelev. Doesn't that imply that Yitzi is potter, but the owner of the dog is chayev? Says Morloi, Ema potter af mishasa, even Yitzi, but the owner of the dog is also potter. So Amar Rava, im tim tzaloima mishasa kalbay shel chaverai b'chaverai chayev. If we'll say that if Yitzi incites Avi's dog at Shelley, then Avi is chayev, because if he has such a dog that listens to such a command, he should have put it down. Shiseyuhu ba'atzmai. Get a load of this. Shiseyuhu ba'atzmai. If Shelley incites the dog on himself, Shelley thought it was fun. Come and get me. Yeah. By the way, Shelley, Rich Leonard thinks it's funny. I want you to know. So be careful when you come to Fairways. He looks innocent, but I'm telling you, you see the glint in his eyes. Not so innocent.
I'm laughing too.
Plus, I have a dog.
You have a dog?
A golden retriever.
Really? Okay. Shiseyuhu ba'atzmai. If Shelley brings it upon himself, then forget it. Avi is definitely potter. Shiseyuhu ba'atzmai. Finally, I'm telling you. What took you so long? Don't give me that innocent look. What took you so long? You were out shopping for Frankfurters?
Black Friday.
Black Friday. I guess it is a Black Friday. If Marshall's not here, it's a Black Friday.
Anything good?
We missed you last night, Marshall. Now, Shiseyuhu ba'atzmai. If Shelley brings the animal upon himself, then potter. Then Avi is certainly potter. My timer, why? Because Kala Mishana, even though Avi deviates by keeping such a menace, but then Shelley also deviates by bringing it upon himself, potter. Avi is potter. Amalei Apapala Rava, well, they say in the name of Reish Lakish, like you, that if somebody deviates to a deviator, you're potter. You have two cows in the Rishus Harabim. Achas Revutza, Marshall's cow, is sprawled out on Central Avenue. The Achas Mahaleches, and Avi's cow is walking, Ubota Mahaleches Berevutza, and Avi's cow gives a resounding kick to Marshall's cow that's sprawled on the ground. Ketura. Avi is potter. Why? Because Marshall's cow is a Meshana, and now when Avi's cow is Bavashina, Avi is going to be potter. When you deviate with a deviant, you're potter. Revutza b'ma'aleches, but if Marshall's cow kicks Avi's cow, then chayeves. Avi was just going along. Avi's cow was just going along doing his business on Central Avenue. If Marshall's cow from the floor kicks him, he's chayev. Now, even though it's in the Rishus Harabim, he's chayev because it's Keren. He's chayev v'chatzi nezek. Amalei, so he says, no, don't mix it up. Don't mix it up. Somebody, believe it or not, somebody comes to the defense of Marshall. It's really amazing. It's not the same. When Shelley incites Avi's dog on himself, Avi's not going to be chayiv. But over here, where Marshall's dog is lying on the ground, then it would be okay for when Marshall's cow is lying on the ground, it would be okay for Avi's animal to walk over it. But to kick it, that's not okay. In this case, we would hold that Avi's cow is kite. Because we tell him, Ki islach rishusa lisguye alai. You have permission to step all over Marshall's cow. That's reclining, that's sprawled on Central Avenue. But levu'ute be to kick at me, lesbach rishusa, that you don't have a right. And when he kicks at Marshall's cow, he would be chayiv v'chatzi nezek. Now, we've learned throughout the Masechta, the Machlokes. I'm in the middle of broadcasting a shir. We learned throughout the Masechta that Shara Mazik B'Rishus HaNizik. That means that if Marshall's ox barrels into Aaron Swade's property and gores Aaron's ox, and he's a tam, so Marshall says, okay, it's the first time, I'll pay a chatzi nezek. Not so fast. It's on Aaron's property. In the Rosh Hashanah, Marshall would be right. On Aaron's property, that's Machlokes Rabbeinu Tarf, Reb Tarf, and Rabbana. So Shara Mazik B'Rishus HaNizik, the villain we know, Marshall's animal barrels into Aaron's property and gores Aaron's ox. Ketzad Nogach, he gores, Nogaf, he pushes, Noshach, he bites, Rovatz, he tramples, but he kicks. So B'Rishus HaRabim, if it's in the Rishus HaRabim, Shalom Chatzi Nezek. B'Rishus HaNizik, but in Aaron's property, Reb Tarfon Amar Nezek Shalom. Reb Tarfon says, even though it's tam, and it's Meshuneh, Marshall has to pay a Nezek Shalom. The Chacham Maimer, no, it's Karen, it's a Chatzi Nezek. So here we have the famous Kal V'chomer of Rebbe Tarfon. What's the famous Kal V'chomer? Reb Tarfon says, if Shein in the Rishus HaRabim is potter, right? The animal eats in the Rishus HaRabim, it's potter because the pasuk says, Ubiyah b'stei achar. But if it's in Aaron's property, he pays a nezek shalom, even the first time. Then goring, which in the Rishus HaRabim pays a chatzi nezek in the Rishus HaRabim, should surely pay a nezek shalom in Aaron's property. Let's see it inside. Amalem Rabbi Tarfon, so Rabbi Tarfon flexes his muscles and says his famous Kal V'chomer. Uma b'makom shehekel ala shein v'ala regel b'Rishus HaRabim. Madach, where we're lenient by shein and regel in the Rishus HaRabim. Shu potter. In the Rishus HaRabim, shein and regel are potter. Hichmer ala b'Rishus HaNizik l'shalom nezek shalom. Makom shehichmer ala keren b'Rishus HaRabim l'shalom chetzi nezek. Keren, where it's unusual, in the Rishus HaRabim pays a chatzi nezek. Einoi din shenachmer ala b'Rishus HaNizik l'shalom nezek shalom. Surely he should be in Aaron's property a nezek shalom. Amrulai, so they said to him, we have a law of dayoy. If you're learning this out from that in the Rishus HaRabim, Keren is chayiv a chatzi nezek, so it's enough to say that in the Rishus HaNizik it should also be a chatzi nezek. Amaloi dayoy lovoi min adin liyois kinodan. It's enough that which we are deriving should be like where we derive it from. Ma b'rishus harabim chatzi nezek. Karen rishus harabim is a chatzi nezek. Af b'rishus hanizik chatzi nezek. Amalahem. So what Reb Tarfon does is he says you're not looking at the mechanics of the Kal V'chomer. I'm not deriving it from Keren in the Rishus Harabim. I'm deriving it from Shane. And as he says, Amalahem, Af Ani, as we turn to Daf Chafei, Af Ani loy odun Keren mikeren. I'm not learning out Keren from Keren. Ani odun Keren meregel. I'm learning out Keren from Regel and Shane, where the animal damages in its way it walks or when it eats. Oma b'mokum shehakel ala Shane v'ala Regel b'rishus harabim. Madach, where you're lenient in Shane and Regel in the Rishus Harabim. Hichmir b'Keren, we're machmir by Keren that in the Rishus Harabim it pays a chatzi nezek. Mokum shehichmir ala Shane v'ala Regel b'rishus hanizik, where we're stringent by Shane and Regel and the Rishus hanizik einoi din shenachmir b'Keren. So we're deriving it from the chumrah that we do by Shane and Regel in the Rishus hanizik. Amrulai, so he says yes, but even so, you cannot make this Kal V'chomer without the component of Keren being Chai v'chatzi nezek in the Rishus Harabim. Amrulai dayo lovim ben adin liyos kinadon. Ma b'Rishus Harabim, just like Keren is a chatzi nezek in the Rishus Harabim. Now, what the exact machloikis here is between Reb Tarfon and the Rabbanan, tomorrow we're going to go in detail of what the machloikis is. Now, let me tell you how the night proceeds now. I did the Mishnayos earlier because now I'm going to do an entire chayk, a chayk of Yisro Day 4. And everybody is welcome to join us for the chayk. As I ask Gedalia to bring my green screen, if you don't mind, Gedalia.